In an ongoing interview today, Peter Obi has finally replied Governor of Rivers State Wike, Inec chairman, FESTUS Keyamo, some pastors, and others. Watch the video.
Welcome to the morning show.
Thank you.
Mr. Obi, good to have you back with us on the morning show.
Thank you.
I'm tempted to ask you,
Dr. Ruben.
I'm tempted to ask you, how is it going? Après la guerre, as the French would say, but it looks like the war in this particular election is still on, and the race is still on. So how do you assess your journey so far? And what are you saying to your supporters and Nigerians, many of whom are disappointed with the conduct of the process so far?
Well, my dear brother Ruben, my first question is to thank you for always inviting me, being there for Nigerians, thank the RISE facility for what they've done. My first is to thank God Almighty for his keeping Nigeria, protecting it, and blessing it. Thanking the good people of Nigeria for their interest and participation in trying to build a new Nigeria. The journey so far has been very tough. But that is what is expected. It's been difficult because you're trying to change what is there that hasn't kept us where we are. So it's going to be difficult. But if you look at the last election, as you know, it's probably the worst election considering in this particular republic, considering the 2022 electoral law, which was meant to improve our overall election process, and the continued and consistent promises of the chairman of Inec that this is going to be the best thing that has ever happened to Nigeria and everything. And you could see it in all the editorials, in all the international newspapers, from Financial Times, The Economist, Wall Street Journal, everybody, including Chatham House, where even the chairman was there. He has questioned the rating of the country. And for me in particular, it's one of sadness. 63 years after Nigerian independence, we can't conduct simple election. Talk less of any other, just election. That's what all the promises. And it's not as if we're too big or through this. The world's biggest democracy, India today, have about 900 registered voters. In their last election, 67% participated, over 600 million, which if you look at our 24 million, that's 25 times our size. Yet the infractions were less than 5%. In our own, opposite is the case. However, my appeal to Nigerians is to remain, to my obedient family, to Nigerians is to remain calm, remain prayerful for our country, Nigeria. We have no other country except this one. And we will go through all legal, peaceful means to bring a new Nigeria, where everybody will be happy and proud to say, I'm a Nigerian.
All right, I'm glad you talk about to remain prayerful and to remain calm. And the reason I say this is that some prominent Nigerians, church leaders, traditional rulers, and high net worth stakeholders are saying that though there are several infractions, the outcome of the election is the way God wants it, and it should be allowed. So on one hand, you are saying remain prayerful and calm, but we'll still go to court. Others are saying for the peace of Nigeria, remain prayerful, calm, and accept this as God's will. What do you have to say to that?
Well, you know, I'm very respectful to prominent Nigerians, especially church leaders, traditional rulers, and all that. And I remain very respectful to them. And I think they should be respected for what they represent in our society. But I disagree with them. What they're actually preaching is the problem of Nigeria. The problem of Nigeria is accepting wrongdoing, accepting what is unacceptable. That is using God's name in vain. That's not what God said. God said, do not use my name in vain. So what they're saying is not God's wish. It is not God's plan for Nigeria. So why don't we accept that the 133 million Nigerians who are poor is God's wish? Why don't we accept that 95 million Nigerians living in absolute poverty is God's wish? It is God's wish that we don't have electricity. It is God's wish that our children are kidnapped. It is God's wish that we have collapsed primary health care, leading us to be the country with the highest infant mortality. It is everything happening is God's way. Not so what God says. No. God's wish is when you do the right thing. And in the end, it is done. This election was predicated and planned. And we have clear laws about the conduct of the election. If it was followed, if this result were uploaded from the booth, polling units, like they said, to the server and everything, we won't be here, we won't be talking about it. It would have been concluded in a matter of hours without anybody arguing about it. But it is not God's wish that you do the wrong thing. It is not God's wish that you go and rob a train and make money and start sharing it. It is not God's. This is what is killing the country. People come here, take public money, and then go and give it to people in the church and they say it's God's wish and start giving them title in the church, title in this. That is what we are fighting. That's what we want to stop. We want God's wish to be truly God's wish. And that is when we do the right things and God gives his blessing. What we are doing now is why they come. What do you tell the young ones growing up? That it's God's wish that you steal? That it's God's wish that you conduct a wrong election? So tell me the difference between those of us who are doing this and the armed robbers. What is the difference between us and the trained robbers? Let's be sincere with ourselves. That's why it's God's wish that somebody came to your station and said he knows a governor who have 22 billion naira stacked and nobody is asking about him. But we are stopping young people who are carrying computer and questioning them and calling them names. That's not God's wish. God wishes us something better. What I want is God to allow us to do the right things so we can start building a better country for our children.
All right. So there are several, messaging and news going on around that INEC is not allowing your legal team to inspect the materials used, for the election. What's going to be your next action as regards this?
Well, INEC is a public institution sustained by taxpayers' money, including you and me. And I believe there's a law about public institutions. If there's anything, they should be open because they conducted the election. Is that everywhere? If you do something and people are not satisfied, it's easy to open up yourself. This is not the first time I'm going to court with INEC. And since 2003, I've actually, I would say several times, I've had to challenge INEC result. Remember that I'm the first governor in this country to come through the process of court by being in court for 3 years. Throughout the 3 years, I was in court with INEC giving me access to whatever materials they used to conduct the election. You've conducted the election, Rufai. You've announced or declared the winner. I'm only asking, can I have access to the documents and materials you used to arrive at that? I'm not asking you to change what you said. And remember, like I also say people, I'm not challenging their declaration. Sorry, I'm not challenging who they declared. I'm not challenging whatever the outcome. I'm challenging the process which they arrived at their declaration. And unless we do that, we're not going to stop the rascality we witnessed in that election. The process through which people come into office is, for me, I said it everywhere, is far more fundamental than what they do thereafter. There's a process of doing things. There's a process of arriving at any destination. If, like I said in my press conference, if you're going to answer His Excellency, the process of coming to that position must be excellent. If you're going to be a bishop, there's a process of being a bishop. Dr. Ruben is a doctor. Why didn't you call me a doctor? Don't I look like a doctor? You called him a doctor because he went and read PhD. Rufai might be awarded a doctor by university. So he's a doctor. But you can't just go on the street and say you're a doctor when you're not. So there must be a process, because even if it's going to be awarded, you must have done something that merited you to be awarded that. Or you must have, like Ruben, went and read PhD. Otherwise, we're all doctors. So a process is important.
Right. So what would you be doing next, really, if they're not granting access to this?
We'll follow the law. We'll go back to the court and say, what you granted, these people are not obeying. We're not going to be, for me, we're not going to, we'll do whatever is necessary within the law. Whatever we're going to do will be for the interest of the country. But they will give us access because they pronounce and declare somebody. So we must have access to the process they arrived at that.
Since February 25, there have been reactions to your participation, to your role, to what you represent. Governor Wike of Rivers State says you are the hero of the entire process. And what is his explanation? His explanation is that you stopped PDP from winning in the traditional places, and that for doing that, as far as he is concerned, and for making Southern presidency possible, you are his hero. FESTUS Keyamo, spokesperson of the APC, also waded into the matter and said, in fact, that you have served your purpose in this electoral process, that the purpose that you were to serve was to help make Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu president-elect. That's his own reading of it. He says, because without you stopping the PDP in their traditional states, Bola Tinubu will not have emerged as president-elect. Number 3, Reno Omokri, who is a spokesperson for the People's Democratic Party, says, well, APC may have rigged, but that Mr. Peter Obi was the perfect rigger in that election, and that you rigged in the Southeast, that he is surprised that a candidate will be reporting 97% of the votes from certain states of the Federation. Of course, Atiku Abubakar, presidential candidate of the PDP himself, had admitted that your leaving the PDP hurt his chances in that election. What do you say to these general comments on your presidential race?
Well, Ruben, my first reaction generally is that I contested the election. I wasn't contesting it to help anybody to win. And I continue to say that even the declared winner did not win. You might have been declared by whatever means, but you've not won the election. Ruben, to win is to win the people. Democracy is government of the people, by the people, for the people. That means if you must win the people. But if you don't win the people, you've not won. And I can tell you, the last election, the declared person did not win. However, that is what we're challenging. The rascality is what we're challenging. On the various comments, let me use the issue of Reno Omokri. Ordinarily, I won't comment on anything because I only comment on or reply fellow presidential candidates, not their spokesperson, because they're not contesting. But was this something that I have never participated or been part of was mentioned, I need to reply it. Ruben, I have never, and I will never ask anybody to add one vote for me that doesn't rightfully belong to me. I've never paid anybody to rig election for me. Go all over Nigeria and ask anybody in Inec, the so-called EOs, resident commissioners, everybody, whether any of them have met Peter Obi saying do this. Go and ask police, army, anybody. Never. They are referees. It is their job to do their job. I've never. The issue of where I got 97% is in Anambra State. Reno Omokri forgot that in 2019, go and check the records, where PDP had the highest vote was in Anambra State. When in 2019, when I was vice presidential candidate to Atiku, our vote in Anambra State was 95 point something, almost 96%. That's why PDP got the highest vote, because I was on that ballot. And they know me. Ruben, I live in Onitsha. If you want to know whether I get 95% in Anambra State, come and go to Anambra State with me. I don't need police. When I come out, you see the reaction of the people. In fact, I'm actually surprised I didn't get 100%. I'm telling you, because I don't know who will be voting against me in Anambra State. In the Southeast, it's a similar situation. People know me. People know what I stand for. People know I've kept to my promises. People know I've kept to what I've said. It's a simple thing. It's like people go about and say, oh, he got votes in Lagos because of the Igbos. Remember how many Igbos live in Lagos? I got more votes from the indigenous in Lagos than those who are, you can call visitors. Are the Igbos in Nasarawa? Are the Igbos in Plateau? Are the Igbos in Abuja? In Rivers, where you know that the governor came out against me, and everything, I said, if the real vote of Rivers were counted, Ruben, I won. I have over 50-something% of the vote. The other two parties were sharing the order. And it was, I won in Asoro. So, will you say it's rigging? Which machinery do I have to rig? I have no councillor, I have no local government chairman, no this thing. I'm not in control of police. I don't even know any DPO. So which machinery will I use to rig? How will you do? They are the ones who I believe in this. What they are doing is what I'm trying to change. So those who say I'm satisfied with what I came for are part of the people we are trying to change.
All right. Okay, so let's talk about the obedience movement, especially post-presidential election. Now, what some of your candidates under the Labour Party umbrella vying for governorship, of the role of governor, is coming under that umbrella of the obedient movement. And some people have said that, say what you may about the presidential elections, something has changed, something has happened, there's a force. And that was driven largely by the obedient movement. And so the question post-presidential elections is, how are you going to leverage that power, that force, so it's channeled to what you want, your beliefs, your ideals, your values? Because it's also very easy for such a force to be misdirected, because there's such momentum, passion behind that movement. How would you leverage that? Number one. Two, to channel it towards the governorship elections. We have Lagos GRV, we have Mr. Kempela, who came from Delta State, and a few other principles like that in other states. Then beyond that, on a lighter note, you're known for, you've just reconfigured the term beavers. So it's originally called by Model Voter Accreditation System, and you've now called it Best Values Acceptable to Society. Please, Basic values, acceptable to society. If you'd like to shed more light on that on a lighter note, it would be great.
Well, let me start with the obedient movement. For us, because Nigerian politics have been largely transactional, when we were starting this, people didn't believe what we were trying to do. The consequence is that we didn't have candidates for governorship in most of the states. Because being a transitional thing, people who like to be where things are being shared. So nobody believes that a party without councillor, local government chairman, can come up and become something. So we didn't have, in most places, candidates. In few places, we were able to have candidates, some of which you have mentioned now, who are, I can say, are first-class candidates. You just mentioned two of them. And I believe and I support them that they should be supported by the obedient family and the people, because they will do good work. If you take Jarvi here, young man, excellent background, good education, you can have better than somebody who have a degree in MIT. So these are the quality. In some places, we're going to work with some good candidates. Because there's some places where we don't have, if you look at my side east, we only have candidates in 2 states. We don't have in Ebonyi. And some other places, in the north we have in Plateau, we don't have in Zamfara. So there's a few of them, and we're urging people to support them. And where we're going to have partnership, like if you go to like Cross River State, where we have someone like Professor Sandy Ono, the senator, running under PDP, which we are considered an excellent candidate. So we support them. For me, it is about having competent, credible people who have proven integrity and track record that can do well. It's not just about saying, oh, it must be Labour Party always. No. Where we think we have good people, we'll support them. And I'm supporting them. Where we think we have somebody better. And the same thing is what I preach to people. Don't say, oh, because this is... With time, we will build this institution and ensure that everything we are doing is the right thing. But it's not going to be overnight. So for me, I want people to, in states where we have good candidates, we're going to support them. We're going to make sure it works. And where we don't, we'll be honest to the people. Because what we're trying to do is build a new politics that will thrive on character, competence, capacity, and compassion, and telling people the truth always. That's why I got 95%, 97% in Anambra State. Because everything I said, I did. Where is impossible, I told the people the truth, not telling them lies. Accounted for their money. When I said the beavers should be basic values acceptable to society, what makes a society is values. The values they accept, the values they tolerate, just like you said now that priests and bishops of this said, it's God's wish. How could God wish that people are poor? So how could God wish that Nigeria is in darkness?
Okay.
No, it is not God's wish.
Okay. Real quickly, I'd like to ask you this. Has presidential candidate of the APC, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has he called you? Because he says he's been reaching out. Has he reached out to you? Have you spoken? That's number one. Number two will be, what would you say about now the ethnic strife that has resulted in the governorship contest in Lagos? They are now pitching the Igbos against the Yorubas. And second, what would you say about people that are saying some people are too young to be governors in Lagos because they're just 40 years of age?
Well, thank you, Rufai. First, that I've always said that the APC presidential candidate is an elder brother. I can even call him a father. And I have all respect for him and everything. I've not been opportune to speak with him. I don't have any issue with him. I respect him and I'll continue to do so. I'm only challenging the process in which he was declared winner. Because that process is wrong. And that process must be corrected. I believe that the things must be done rightly. We must follow the law, rule of law. We must have a society where things are done in a decent, organized manner. Especially as we're trying to build this new nation that will be exemplary and the world will take us serious and respect us. Number two is that what you see as ethnic strife is just people trying to hide under what does not exist to cause confusion. There's no such. The vote that got in Lagos, I said it earlier without knowing you were going to ask me, got across everybody in Lagos from the, call it Yorubas, Igbos, Hausas, Jijos, any of the tribes that reside in Lagos voted for me. I can tell you that I have a lot of people who I know have truly Yoruba, who are actually supporting me 24 hours. And it shouldn't be. In 2003, Obasanjo got over 90% of the votes in the entire Southeast. Despite the fact that our own revered leader, Ojukwu, was contesting. Nobody shouted at anybody. Nobody said, I won't do business with the Yorubas or with the Northerners or with anybody. He failed in the Yoruba land. But we gave him more votes in the Southeast, even when our own revered leader was contesting. Nobody quarreled with it. We have Yoruba people who live in the East. Don't think that it's only here. I can tell you in nature where I live, two prominent people that I deal with are completely from the Southwest. And they were there. Nobody harassed them. There were people doing their business who have the material right to vote whoever they want. And I can go back to history. In 2011, we voted for Jonathan. He got more votes in the Southeast than he got in South-South. When Abiola contested the election, he had more votes in the Southeast. Even when his vice presidential candidate is Muslim from Kanu, and no, sorry, from I don't know where Kingi became again. Maybe from the north. When Tofa had an Igbo man as vice presidential candidate, a respected Igbo man, yet Abiola won. And when that election was annulled, go and check the principal and people who actually lost more in Nedeko. It is the Igbos. We lost more in Nedeko. It is Raf Obias of this whose business were ruined. Go and check it. So when people bring what is not there, so who are those who voted for me in Abuja? Were the Igbos? Nobody got 25% in Abuja among the two parties. Is it the Igbos who voted for me in Jos, in Plateau? Is it the ones in Nasarawa? Is it the Igbos in occupying Nasarawa? The governor of Nasarawa said I won't get 10% of the votes in Nasarawa. The governor of Kaduna said I won't get 2,000 in Nasarawa. In Kaduna, I got 300,000. So let us not, 300,000 Igbos in Kaduna. So where does this start? It's just people. I'm appealing to people for the interest of Nigeria. Today, we have a Pakistani as mayor of London, and India as prime minister. And they are doing far better than we're doing. In this place that is not even working, we're still trying to divide ourselves based on, and that's what we're trying to remove. It is this rascality, it is this structure we're trying to remove that brings this hatred, which we must remove in this system. So that the system can work. When people can no longer compete based on character, competence, compassion and capacity, they resort to ethnic, religious, and be shouting, oh, Peter campaign on religion, oh, Peter campaign on, but they are the ones doing it. I've never in any way told anybody, in any church, in any gathering, vote for me based on this. I've said it, do not vote for Peter to be based because of this part that is from the Southeast. People voted for me on the issue of somebody being young and old. It's laughable. It's actually, we should actually stop people from being old and contest. If I have my way, if we can retire our bishops at 70, retire our professors at 70, Supreme Court at 70, it's time we put age for this our politics so that people can also retire. Because there's a reason why we say at 70, 75, people should go and rest. So let us, is these people that are saying it that are bringing confusion? Age of 40 is age where people are becoming or became president in America, the world's biggest economy, 25 trillion. And you're just 400 billion. And you're talking about age. That is the right age, the right background, the right education.
Mr. Peter, we've been talking about the presidential election, but your party despite the criticism that you had no structure, you had no representation in the National Assembly, ended up getting into the National Assembly. 6 seats in the Senate, 34 in the House of Representatives. I would like you to comment on that. And then second, this issue of INEC not allowing you access to inspect election materials. Now, Yusuf Tanko, the chief spokesperson of your party, has now served notice that INEC was duly served a CTC copy of the court order on March 3. INEC was reminded on March 6, and that the only option now available to the Labour Party is to picket to INEC offices nationwide in a peaceful protest, he says. But has it also occurred to the party to seek the option of going back to court to make it clear to court that INEC is guilty of contempt, is contemptuous of the court order, or the only measure you want to adopt is that of the peaceful street protest to INEC offices? Those two issues.
Thank you, Dr. Abati. We'll apply both. Because you have a situation where you cannot even imagine. You know, INEC is an institution backed by law. The court have given an order, a ruling. They are not obeying it. Where do we start to build a nation? The most important ingredients of what makes a nation is rule of law. And I said it when I was campaigning, that we must govern by rule of law. Ruben, the biggest contributor to the Western economy today, in terms of GDP, in terms of their growth, is intangible assets called rule of law. The reason why people want to live in America, in Britain, in anything, is not because things that happen here don't happen, but because if it happens, you can seek redress in court and it will be obeyed. It's because if you call police, it will nothing else. Nothing else. I have somebody who told me an interesting story. He said he had a wife in Nigeria, and he would shout at his wife, do whatever he likes, and then suddenly something happened and he went to the UK and he shouted and the wife called police, and police came and he was still shouting in front of police, and the police told him that he shouldn't come near one mile radius of his house because of the way he's behaving.
You didn't remind them that he paid dowry as a Nigerian.
He told me, said, all he wants is to go back to Nigeria with his wife. Why? There's law and order. And that's what we are lacking here. Ruben, we must live in a society that is organized. Today, with the way Nigeria is, considering how bad things are economically, what the world expected of us in 2023, there was so much expectation, is to have free, fair, and credible election where the new government will come to start. When you talk about low, people say low-hanging fruit. The number one low-hanging fruit here is to start governing by rule of law. If you start it, you start changing this country. And that I'm committed to. And I urge INEC to please help the country. The image of the country today, as such importance in Committee of Nations, is being put into question by all this rascality.
National Assembly elections and how you intend to leverage on
for
that
me,
victory.
is I thank God that we were able to get the number of seats we received. I hosted the candidates after they received their certificate and urged them to know that we are committed to a new Nigeria and we must do things differently. We must support what is right. We must go there to work hard and everything. And I'm sure they will. We also said we'll have a retreat after this. Ruben, the things we need to do going forward for Labour Party, for them, we need to build a democratic institute that will be able to teach people what their job is all about and what they're expected to do. It is not just you've won an election, it is now time for you to be part of the confusion that exists, to make it transactional. We now want to leverage and talk. We're talking with different organizations, different countries that can help us to build a proper democratic institution that will teach our people, including me, what governance is all about.
All right, great point. Now, I just want to ask, following that you received or you hosted the 40 Labour candidates who emerged winners for the National Assembly elections, so people have asked the question, or some of your critics have asked, not the same process as with the presidential election, because you're saying that what you're going to court for is to challenge the process by which the president-elect was declared winner. So is it the same? Why have you accepted the results of the National Assembly elections in favor of the Labour Party candidates and not accept the same process, as it were, that also had the president-elect emerge as winner? And the second part of the question as well is that there are also questions around your support of gubernatorial candidates. So a case in point is in Enugu, where you have Chijioke Edoga and Frank Wike Jr. of APGA party. There seems to be some, lack of agreement in your party as to who to support in that state. I'd just like you to clarify that today.
Okay, very, very good question. Let me tell you in Enugu, let me start with the issue of Enugu. The issue of Enugu is because the Aisha Yusuf tweeted in support of Frank Wike. Let me clarify to you now. The obedient movement are not necessarily Labour members. You have to know that. There's so many people in the obedient movement who have nothing to do with Labour Party. There's so many groups within that. There's so many people. Someone like Aisha Yusuf is not a member of Labour Party. And it says so. And however, we even have what we call the big tent, which is where everybody is gathered. I have people who are supporting me today as a presidential candidate who have nothing to do with Labour Party. People like Atedo Peter Side, for example. And I have many people of that said they believe that I can do this job. And I'm sure there's so many of them in their rise who are not members of Labour Party, but they believe in what I'm doing. So they have right to also choose who they want to support. Based on what I said, it's a choice. But as a Labour Party, which I'm a member, and again the party is far more supreme than any individual. I'm just a member of Labour Party. Labour Party have chosen through this process that is verifiable and straightforward, Chijioke Edoga is our candidate. And that I stand with, because I'm a member of Labour Party. The obedient members of obedient family have their own choices. I can't question them. So that's the difference. So let's do. And then on the second question you asked about issue of whether National Assembly, they're not. Remember, Inec said House of Representative was going from the through to the server, as rep was going through, but it's only presidential. So by that, they have defined a process. They have accepted a process. We are in their law. In the other two, they followed that process. In this one, something happened. They gave an excuse. We shouldn't be there. Because they know what they're doing.
Okay. So let's come to Lagos. What's your support like for the Labour Party governorship candidates in Lagos? And also, there's been a dichotomy. In fact, at some point, they were saying there was going to be a possibility of the PDP, Labour Party, and a couple of other parties doing a deal in Lagos, but that has not fallen through now. There's also the Jandor factor. Jandor has been saying he's fought, godfatherism with the APC and all of that, that he was thinking, this was the time of the PDP. He's come here to argue a couple of times that most of the votes you got in Lagos were also PDP votes. I mean, what do you say about that dichotomy vis-a-vis your own Labour Party candidate in Lagos? Another question I'd like to ask you is this. In this our country where rule of law has been put on the background, that people don't even obey court judgment again? It might sound like a funny question, but in a case where a court judgment gets in your favor, maybe in the Supreme Court, and it's not obeyed, what happens? Because that's the kind of dichotomy and anarchy we've put on the land. And this your newfound friendship with the PDP. Are you people challenging this together? Have you been talking to Alhaji Atiku Abubakar? What have you people been saying to each other? Because both of your vice presidential candidates had a joint press conference together.
Well, let me say this. There's no partnership between Labour Party and the PDP. Both of us are challenging a process that is wrong. That is acceptable. The process is wrong, and we're challenging it because we're all participants. It's like there's several people are involved in a competition, and it goes wrong, and they come together and say, it happened. There's so many court challenges all over the world where maybe if you see the abroad where somebody have raped one woman, he went to court, several others who were raped by the same man comes out. They're not acting jointly, but because they have been a victim of the same man.
But both of you are saying you won the election.
No.
Alhaji Atiku Abubakar is saying you won the election. You two are saying you won the election.
No problem. That is why we want to check the process. It is not the process that will say who actually rightly received the highest number of rightful votes cast in the said election. Because what is important is who received the highest number of rightful votes cast in the election and who has the spread. So if we do the right things, this is what we are claiming now is because of the confusion that was deliberately created by Inec. If they had done the right things, we won't be here. Nobody will be arguing. Like I said, I have my respect for Atiku. My respect for him remains as long as I live. He's a respected elder brother.
You've been speaking to him?
Of course.
As regards this election?
No, not as regards the election, but any other issue. We have always remained close. He's my respected elder brother. On issue of Nigeria, we are two different candidates. I'm committed to a new Nigeria, committed to doing things differently. And my commitment is total. But my commitment does not in any way affect my respect for him or TINUBU. I will remain respectful to them. On issue of Lagos, the Labour candidate in Lagos remains the best candidate. Is through and thorough Lagosian from a family that everybody is well known. His educational background, his age, everything is an impression. And he has the right age and the right lineage. And I support him 100%. So do I do whoever Labour candidate that will be choosing through the right process. I told you here that we don't have candidates everywhere. We have maybe 5, 6, or 7 candidates, and I support them. Wherever you see me not supporting our candidate, Labour Party, especially our chairman, must have maybe worked with them in partnership or somehow to be able to achieve what we achieved in the last election. And Labour as an institution is bigger than me. And I respect and take the ratings of the chairman. Because we want to build institutions, so it will work. Even if I'm the leader, I believe in the institution. And I must respect the institution. That's some of the rascalities I saw in other parties that makes it not work. Because people think they're bigger than the party. I'm not bigger than Labour Party. Labour Party remains bigger and also whatever directives. So I assure you, we support GRV, and I can tell you, he's a fantastic candidate.
Okay, Mr. Obi, here is a friend of yours. I don't want to name him on television. Responding to the point you made about age. Maybe you want to clarify that. He says, remind Peter that if he's going by age, at 63 years, he himself isn't qualified. We should be talking about credibility and the characteristics of leadership, irrespective of age.
63 years. Who is 63?
That's what he's saying about you. I'm just reading what he sent to me. He said it's not about age. The task of nation building is a mutual responsibility between the young and the old. The old contributing experience and maturity, and the young collaborating with audacity and diversity. In the USA, that he quotes, the use of age as a criterion for any job is considered discriminatory, just like religious and gender discrimination. So Peter Obi is out of place using age against his co-contestants. That's what this person said.
Remember when I quoted age, I wasn't talking about myself. Remember?
Yes,
I didn't say so. They asked me that somebody said 40 years is too young for Lagos State.
Yeah.
That was when I said that people who are talking about age, that is them that are above 75 should actually retire. But let's not compare age in the US and here. Please. Ruben, in the US, life expectancy is 72.5 years. In Nigeria, life expectancy is 64. So at 70, you've actually passed 16 years. Your life expectancy. Yes, we should have gone. So, and some of these people who are saying this have contributed why people are dying, where we have high infant mortality. So let's not compare the two. It's not the same society. Life expectancy, somebody who is 8 in America is different from somebody who is 8 here. So you cannot compare the two of them. I'm not going to go into life expectancy, but I assure you, I'm not 63 years old, Ruben, as maybe right, maybe wrong. My affidavit letter, which I say carry along, my mother gave me since 1970, is that I was born in July 19th, 1961.
On what market day was it?
So if anything is wrong,
for the benefit of the man asking the question.
if anything is wrong, I hold my mother responsible. But she's been a wonderful woman. I didn't have the privilege of my father giving me anything. So it's my mother who gave. So if you follow it, Ruben, I'm still going to be 62 in this July. So I'm not comparing the age and all that. But I assure you of my commitment is, and I listen to what he said, we need experience of age. But the age and the old have not used that experience. Rather, what they are doing is claiming experience in failure. They've not used it to progress the place. Rather, they tell you, do you know I've been doing this for 30 years? And so what? The place failed. How can you claim experience in failure? If you have been doing it for 30 years and we're in this mess, then you should actually cover yourself in shame. Not saying I've been around for 20 years. Thereby, it's my entitlement. No. You have to claim entitlement where things are progressing, where things are going well.